Despite what you might think, I haven't died or fallen off the face of the earth. The last few months have just been incredibly busy, hectic, and stressful for me. And that hasn't left me the time I needed to write or record anything of substance. So let me take a minute to explain what's been going on. Most of you would have absolutely no reason to know this, simply because it hasn't been relevant to what we've been talking about. But I am a real estate broker in Birmingham, Alabama. So when I'm not puzzling over narcissistic parents and how it affected my childhood or adulthood, or when I'm not trying to figure out how to deal with our dysfunctional culture, I'm selling real estate and managing rental properties. I never meant to get into real estate, but a friend started a company about 8 years ago, and I joined him, intending for it to be a short-term assignment of helping him set up some internal systems for the new company. But that turned into something much more involved and much different. I was running the office operations for the company while my friend Hal, the owner, managed agents and sold property. But then he started having medical problems a few years ago. First, he had an abdominal aortic aneurysm. You might sometimes hear that called a AAA, which required very painful surgery and a long recovery period. It was very uncomfortable. This photo was taken at a house closing 2 years ago, which was just a couple of months after that first surgery. I was the agent on this transaction, but he attended since the young woman buying the house was his niece. He was sick enough that he had turned her over to me as a client, but he wanted to come to the closing to support her. This is the last photo that I have of the two of us together. By that point, we were hoping that he was getting better and would be back to work soon. But in the course of that treatment, as he was getting over the surgery for the AAA, doctors discovered cancer in one of his lungs. I'm not going to bore you with all of the details, but it was a long and difficult treatment, both here in Birmingham and at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. I went ahead and got my broker's license so that I could be prepared to take over the company legally if treatment was not successful. In the meantime, I was basically running things already, since he was mostly out of commission for more than 2 years. I officially took over as company broker last fall, but he was still around to make decisions as the owner. In January, though, he lost his battle with cancer, and he was gone. His wife lost a wonderful husband. I lost a good friend. And all of his family lost somebody who they dearly loved. Although I had already been running the company, I was suddenly faced with a very different task. I had been running things as a caretaker. Now, all of a sudden, it was my responsibility to grow the company just as he might have, and to do the best job that I could of protecting and building on the assets that Hal had spent so many years earning. I'm trying to recruit additional agents for the brokerage, and I'm also trying to add additional property management clients. And there are a million other things to do, particularly after someone dies. There have been a million things to get done since then, and it has been very stressful. As a result, I simply had to put the book project aside for the time being. I kept thinking that the time requirements and the stress would be reduced, and I could go back to something more like my normal life. But that hasn't happened yet. I'm not sure when it will. So for now, work is taking up the vast majority of my time. I will return to the book project and these videos when things slow down enough to allow it. I really appreciate those of you who have emailed me to ask what was going on. I appreciate your concern. I owed you this update before now, but I kept telling myself that things would go back to normal quickly. Since I was clearly wrong, this is my explanation and my apology. I shouldn't have left you wondering for so long. I hope you'll forgive me, and I also hope that you'll still be here when I eventually can afford the time to return to the project. It's honestly a privilege to have good people such as you interested enough in what I'm doing to follow the project. I'll be back when I can once again afford to devote the time that I need to it. Thank you for your continued interest. I really do appreciate you. And I'm sorry if I left you wondering what was going on for far too long.